Good morning. Good morning, y'all. It is Tuesday, the 18th. And yeah, look, I don't know if Corey's watching or will watch. My microphone's on. I had it on before. Here lately, I've been forgetting to turn it on until I start. Then I'm like, wait, my microphone on? Yeah, it's on. Huh. So yeah, it's on. Um, it is the 18th of April, 2023. We are past the halfway point of April, folks. Almost May. April showers bring May flowers. We got a lot of flowers up already. It's gonna be a little warmer today. Yesterday was cold in the 20s and 30s. Woo, brutal for April. But I've seen it snow in May before. I think it snowed a little bit last year in May. We had some cold days. Anyway, I sure hope you're having a good week. I am. And I'm ready. Good morning, Tim. I see here. Tim and I were talking just briefly on Messenger before I jumped on here. So I hope you're having a good week, and I mean that. I work today, off tomorrow, then work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, off Sunday, but I have the truck stop, and then all week next week. So just pray for one another. I know, man, I'm tired. I'm not going to lie. I went to bed before 11, or fell asleep maybe a little after 11 last night. Before 11, I don't even remember what time I fell asleep. I sure am tired. I know all of y'all are tired. A lot of y'all are tired as well. And whew, there's lots going on in this world. Continuing on with our devotion, we're in Philippians 1 still. We're breaking down verses 19 through 26 this week. And we just kind of did a springboard yesterday talking about this passage, what Paul was talking about, how Paul at this point, he was in prison. It's around AD 62, I think. Yeah, about AD 62, 63 somewhere. This is one of his prison epistles. Paul was beheaded, 4 or 5 years later, 80, 66, 67, somewhere around there. He was martyred, sacrificed. But this is one of his prison epistles. He's locked up for the gospel. And while he's being locked up, people were picking at him. Saying, why is, he's locked up. He shouldn't have been, not why he's locked up, but why was he preaching so hard? He knew he was going to get locked up. And now he is. So he shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be acting like that. And the reason I say this, the same thing's we face today. If you're a Bible-believing Christian, a lot of people in modern Christianity don't like Bible-believing Christians. They don't. Because a lot of people in modern Christianity are yoking up with the world. And the world is enmity with Bible-believing Christianity. We shouldn't have any part of the world. I'm not saying we shouldn't have fun in life, we shouldn't do other things, but we should not be locked in with worldly things, worldly systems. So, as a Bible-believing Christian, we will face persecution. Just hands down. You will. You take a stand for what you believe, you're going to face persecution, and you're going to face persecution from your brethren sometimes, brothers and sisters in Christ. Don't know why I'm getting off on that little rabbit trail. But with Paul in this situation, all right, he's locked up. He's at the latter end of his life. We'll look here in a couple chapters as we go through Philippians. He had to encourage the Philippians to keep pressing forward to the mark of the prize, the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. That's our calling home. We keep pressing forward until that time we are called home. And that's what Paul was doing. Even though he was locked up, he was still pressing forward. He was still plugging along. So, picking up here in verse 19, we're backing up where he just was talking about the two people preaching Christ, one of contention and not of sincerity. They're doing it to pick a fight, to preaching Christ. And then the others of sincereness, preaching Christ. And the ones of sincereness, preaching Christ, were encouraging Paul. The ones of contention were criticizing Paul. And now he jumps into his being in a strait betwixt, stuck in between two places, right? And that's the theme of this passage, as Paul is stuck between wanting to go to heaven. He's already been there once, by the way, and he's desire to stay here. So he's in a strait, stuck in the middle somewhere. He wants to go to heaven, but he still is needed down here. So look at verse 19. For I know that this shall turn to my salvation through your prayer and the supply of the Spirit of Jesus Christ. In context, Paul is not talking about being saved, being born again in this context. His salvation is that he's praying about and asking you to pray about is his deliverance from prison. And as we look deeper into this passage, his deliverance is going to happen one of two ways. He's either going to be physically delivered out of the prison and freed, or he is going to, as we learn later, when he's martyred, his deliverance becomes his home in heaven. And that's for us. We're in bondage in this world as Christians. We're stuck, we're tied down here until that day that we are loosed from this flesh, right? Paul was in that same situation. He was stuck down here. And as we look here in a couple verses, he wanted to go back to heaven. He had already gotten a glimpse of it once, and he wanted to go back. So when he says this, turn to my salvation, it's his deliverance from prison. Now, again, knowing Paul's ministry and how it began, Christ said, you are going to suffer those things that you've been putting my people through. You're going to go out now and you're going to preach me and you're going to get persecuted for it. Now, that's not, word for word how it went with Christ and Paul, but that's what Christ was telling Paul. You're going to face these things. Now, there's going to be times that Paul was delivered physically from things. He was actually helped escape out of some cities by the brothers because he was getting persecuted. But he knew eventually the ultimate sacrifice for his life was going to be made. His life for Christ. He knew that time was coming. We looked at a passage last week about the apostles. They were all appointed to death for their stand. The only one that kind of made it past that was John the Apostle John. He was finally just banished to the island of Patmos, and that's where he lived the rest of his life isolated from everybody else. But he still got the word out and still got it to spread around. But all the other apostles were martyred. Peter crucified upside down, James beheaded, Paul beheaded, others cut in half. I mean, just they were all martyred for the cause. And Paul knew this was going to happen eventually to him. But his job wasn't done here in the book of Philippians. This is only AD 62. He's got another 4 years to go in his ministry before he does give that ultimate sacrifice. But here, for I know that this shall turn to my salvation through your prayer and the supply of the Spirit of Jesus Christ. Remember he said, my God shall supply all your need. No matter what we go through as a Christian, if we are faithful, we stand firm, and we don't give up, God will supply our needs. He'll get us through those things that we're going through, just like he was getting Paul through what he was going through. By the time Paul ended his ministry, the man could barely move around. He was a crippled old man for all the beatings and things that he took for the gospel's sake. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to go through that kind of persecution at all. We do have brothers and sisters in Christ around the world that are going through that persecution. And brothers and sisters, that you're watching this, there is a strong chance that before the rapture, we're going to see this kind of persecution here. And that is something we need to prepare ourselves for. This country is like the world. It is very wicked and dark and evil. We are strangers, foreigners, and pilgrims in a foreign land. This is not our home. We're just passing through. And the further we go along and the closer we get to the Lord's return, the worse this world's going to get. And the worse this world's going to get towards you and I if we stand fast in the faith. And we need to be bold like Paul was. Paul was bold and he was standing firm in his belief. Look here at the next one. According to my earnest expectation and my hope that in nothing I shall be ashamed, but that with all boldness, as always not so now in Christ, shall be magnified in my body, whether it be by life or by death. Paul was bold and he was also dauntless. He was praying for deliverance in that other verse that we were just looked at. So he was praying for deliverance, to be delivered from this wickedness, whether freed from prison or freed from this body. My hope is before it gets really bad here, that the rapture happens. I want out of this world. I'm done, but I still got work to do. I may be done and ready to go. But I still have work to do. And I'm going to keep going and doing it. I pray until Christ calls me home, whether by death or by rapture. Y'all have a great day. God bless. Talk to you tomorrow.